Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Clara, and today I have something really exciting to share with you guys. I have the new NATASHA DENONA Tropic palette. I did also pick up the mini sunset palette, but I think I'm going to do a review of that a little bit later so I can really take the time to compare it to the original sunset palette. Before we jump into this really interesting and different NATASHA DENONA palette, I just wanted to mention, in case you haven't heard, that we are having a Pat McGrath giveaway of one of these beautiful mini palettes that you can see on the shelf behind me. If you haven't seen the review of that, you can just follow this link and then also enter the giveaway through the Pat McGrath video. But let's talk about this beautiful NATASHA DENONA palette. This palette does come in a hard case. It's not leather like her other palettes. And it is $129, so that's the same as her previous palettes of this size. There are 15 shades in here, and if you're familiar with NATASHA DENONA palettes, you will notice right away that this looks very, very different from most of her palettes because it has so many matte shades. 10 of the shades are matte shades, and then you do have just one of her glitter shades here, and then these two and these two up here are shimmer shades, but they are a little bit different from her normal shimmer formula. NATASHA DENONA's shimmer shadows in general are my absolute favorite formula of any shadows, but these ones are not quite as creamy as the other ones. I will say that overall I really enjoyed this palette more than I thought I would when I opened it and swatched it. I think I was able to get a really beautiful look on my eyes, and I was quite pleased with this palette. That being said, I do wish there was a little bit more variety in here. I don't think she needed quite so many mattes that are like similar colors. And most of the mattes in this palette do look like the shades that I have in my Just Peachy Mattes palette, which is from Too Faced, and that one is also a pretty good value and good quality. So I just would have liked to see more like NATASHA DENONA shimmers because I do think that's what she does absolutely the best. But let's just go down the rows. I will swatch these all for you, and then we will get into the demo of what I have on my eyes today. First, we have this matte shade Peach Puff, which is a true matte peach shade. Next, we have this matte red shade called Sangria, and this one performed much better on the eyes than it did swatched. Next we have Fake Tan, which is a matte medium tan shade with a bit of peach tone to it. Next we have Cocoa, which is a matte dark brown. It's pretty neutral, but it does have just a hint of warmth to it. Next we have Sahara, which is a tan shade. It is kind of a neutral brown and good for the crease. Next we have Nudist, which is this matte light pink shade. Next we have Vintage Taupe, which is a matte smoky rose color. Next we have Pastel Melon, which is a light peach matte shade. We have this shimmer shade Gusti, which is kind of interesting. It's very different in texture than her normal shimmers. It's very, very hard in the pan, and it was a little bit difficult to build up the color. That being said, I do find that the overall appearance of this shadow is really pretty, if not as intense as I would have liked. It's a medium rose shade with a beautiful light blue sparkle that really complements her Mint Frost shade in the palette. Next we have Limoncello. I did get a little bit of that pale yellow showing through. Not as intense as in the pan, but the shimmer was definitely strong there. Next we have Mint Frost, which is a really beautiful shade. It's a glitter aquamarine shade, and this was one of the most impressive shades in the palette to me, and it swatched really beautifully. Next we have Exotic, which is this beautiful kind of intense green shade. It did not swatch well at all, however, so I was a little bit disappointed with this one. I just couldn't really get the pigment to build up more than just a kind of light green shimmer. Next we have the other shade that really impressed me in this palette when swatched, and that is Laguna. It's this matte turquoise shade, and the pigment is very intense and it's really blendable as well. Next we have Tiger Lily, which is a royal blue with a slight shimmer to it. This one was a little bit difficult to build up the pigment, but I do feel like it's a very beautiful color. Lastly, we have this beautiful, beautiful matte lavender shade, and this is called Xena. It didn't swatch particularly well, but it applied absolutely beautifully on the eyes, and is one of my favorite shades in this palette. So I'm going to walk you quickly through the steps that I used to create this look today. I used my Too Faced 24-Hour Shadow Insurance Primer, and then on top of that I took this light pink shade Nudist and blended it into the crease. Once that was blended, I took Gusti and I built it up on the lid with a finger. Knowing how difficult it was to swatch, I didn't really try to build this one up with a brush. As expected, it took a bit of effort to build up, but once it was on, I really liked the way that the blue sparkles kind of caught the light. It's definitely more subtle than her typical shimmer shadow though. Next, I went absolutely crazy with limoncello. I put it all over my brow bone, I put it on the inner third of my eye, I even put a little bit on my cheeks as kind of a highlight, just because I was trying to see how many uses I could get out of this. It does have a shimmer, but it's not so intense that it looks glittery, so it does even make a really beautiful highlight. Next, I took this bright turquoise glitter shade Mint Frost and I applied that on the inner V of the eyes, and I really liked the way these bright turquoise sparkles complemented the subtle turquoise sparkles in Gusti. Next, I took this matte red shade Sangria on the outer V of the eye, and I was really happy with the amount of pigment that this gave me, and it also didn't give me any trouble blending it out. To blend it into Gusti, I took this matte peach shade Peach Puff, and I just kind of blended those together. Next, I moved on to my lower lash line with the shade Tiger Lily. This one gave me just a little bit of difficulty building it up to the color that's in the pan. It almost looks more turquoise on the eye, but that does end up complementing the other kind of turquoise shades in the palette. I was so excited to use this bright matte turquoise shade Laguna, and I blended that on the inner third of my lower lash line to blend Tiger Lily and Mint Frost together. It blended so easily, it was so super pigmented and just wonderful to use. Next, I took the shade Xena to kind of blend those blue shades down on my lower lash line, and even though this shade didn't swatch particularly well, it applied really beautifully. I feel like I was able to get it to the same level of pigment as in the pan pretty easily, and I just love the way this purple shade looks. Lastly, I thought it just needed a little pop of something, so I went back in with limoncello onto the center of the lid, and I just patted that lightly over Gusti to give it a little more sparkle. I added a wing and mascara, and this is the finished look. I'm really happy with it. I think it's gorgeous for the summer. I'm going to be back really soon with a comparison of the mini sunset palette to the original sunset palette, so look forward to that. Again, don't forget to enter in our Pat McGrath giveaway. I will also be posting the tutorials for the looks that I created with each of those palettes later on next week, so please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and let me know what your thoughts are on this new Natasha Denona palette. I hope that you all are having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again really soon. Bye guys!